Hello and welcome to Films and That. My name is Rob Turnbull.
And my name's Sam Hall.
And today, Sam, what are we looking at?
Kwaidan by... We're looking at the film Kwaidan by Masaki Kobayashi. Based on the book Kwaidan by Lafcadio Hearn, Kwaidan is a collection of strange tales inspired by Japanese folklore.
So these are traditional Japanese folk tales, are they?
Yeah, the author collected the stories from different regions of Japan. It was written around sort of the end of the 19th century, and that was just about around the time that culturally people were getting a lot more interested in things that, you know, from other cultures, and Japan was one of the stranger, more mysterious lands. Many years later, the director Masaki Kobayashi decided to turn that into a film. And these stories do have that Edgar Allan Poe feel to them. It seems to be they're all about building up to the denouement.
You love that word, denouement.
Yeah.
You said it in every single video, I think.
Have I?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my god.
Favourite word. Yeah, now that you mention Edgar Allan Poe, I can definitely see that. So they're all horror stories as well. They're all based on supernatural elements.
As I understand it, that's the other thing. They're all based on supernatural elements, yes. But apparently the film sort of gets a lot of criticism from general audiences who are expecting a horror film, because it's not a Western horror film in any sense. It's maybe closer to something like Edgar Allan Poe, all the sort of ancient Greek mythological stories, you know. But because pretty much all of them contain ghosts, oh right, well we'd better put that in the horror section, you know.
Yeah, it's not so much blood and gore or anything kind of frightening. It's just supernatural themes, isn't it?
The first story is about a man who leaves his wife to start on a new life with a richer family. His new wife is not particularly nice, so he grows to hate her and spends the whole time longing for his first wife, and so decides to go back. So he goes back to his wife and then they spend the night together. She's very forgiving despite the fact that he left her. They go to sleep together, and then when he wakes up the next morning, what happens?
She's dead.
Yeah, decomposed. She's been dead for a while, it seems. So that story's not as quick as I told it. You know, that's just the gist of the story. But nothing spooky happens up until then. And so expecting a ghost story, you go into it, you know, expecting something like that, and nothing happens. But when it does happen, it did kind of get that kind of creepy sort of hair on the back of your neck feel to it. And that is kind of what you can expect from the rest of the film. Long periods of just nothing scary happening whatsoever.
It's quite mundane. People just living their lives.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's what might turn a lot of people off on the film.
When that bit did happen, when he sees that she's dead, I kind of, because I didn't know it was just that was the end of that story at that point, I was just thinking, oh, this is getting good, and then it just ended and went on to the next story.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I kind of felt the same way too.
A woodcutter gets caught in a blizzard, and then he wakes up to a woman who ends up killing his friend or something.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's the man who's apprenticed him.
This woman takes pity on the other man and says, I won't kill you, but if you tell anyone what happened here, I will kill you.
Yeah.
And then he goes to marry her, like years later. He doesn't realise it's her.
He doesn't realise it's her, yeah.
He marries her, and then he ends up telling her about it, and she's like, oh, you broke your promise. And now I'm going to kill you. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm just going to leave. Do you think that we've been spoiled with our fables and folk tales? Because there always seems to be a morality to them. If you do evil, something evil will happen. Where a lot of these stories, they're kind of inconsequential. They don't really do anything that bad.
Yeah. No, actually, yeah, I'd absolutely agree. In each situation, the only mistake they make is that they did it, you know. It's not like your traditional slasher horror where people, kids go out, they have sex, they do bad things or whatever, and the virgin survives, because there's always that strong idea of Christian morality to them. And with this, it's like it's like there's nothing you can do about the force of nature is almost the point, you know. What I did like about that story is pretty much everything visually. All these are very simple folk tales, you know. They're not going to blow your mind, they're not going to make you think different about the world, but visually the whole film looks pretty incredible. Sort of like a painting is the idea that they're trying to give across, isn't it?
And they don't shy away from that either. There's a bit in that Lady in the Snow story when it focuses on one of the backdrops, because it's all done in sets, and they're very obviously sets a lot of the time.
Yeah.
There's one bit when it focuses on one of the matte paintings in the backdrop, and the film obviously isn't trying to convince you that's real.
Yeah.
Because it looks so much like a set. You say it's very influenced by theatre and co-theatre.
Yeah, or no theatre.
No theatre.
No, or I guess it could be pronounced N-O-H.
Oh.
The style of the choreography is very slow moving, and it's as if it's to move to a kind of slow musical beat. And it's choreographed very well, very closely. So it looks theatrical, and Kwaidan looks theatrical. The way the people move, the way they speak, you know.
The third story, is it Hoichi the Earless?
Yeah, or Hoichi.
The beginning bit of that is kind of like a 10-minute story about...
It's almost their own story in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About just two warring factions. I love this idea that they had this war on the sea.
Yeah.
And they were just like, with swords and stuff, jumping from boat to boat. I just like that.
With mist, of course.
Yeah. Lots of dry ice.
Yeah, lots of dry ice in ancient Japan. But it was done in a musical style as well. It's not told, is it? It's sung with that kind of a traditional Japanese music.
The bivar or something.
I can't remember what it was called. The instrument was called. Yeah.
Let's call it a bivar.
Yeah, it's difficult to. I'm no good at describing music. Music's more your thing, isn't it? How would you describe that style of music?
I'll describe it as annoying. It was very, very chaotic, very dissonant. There's quite a lot of staccato.
Yeah,
kind of.
Staccato is a good description, actually, isn't it? Yeah.
But it was like some bits were tuneful, but I kind of got the impression there weren't that many notes on that instrument he was playing.
Yeah.
Like he just played like 4 notes and then just hitting it. I really liked the imagery in that when they're painting the holy words on his face. He's just covered in characters, and he's got these big like red one on
It's so striking that when I saw that image as a kind of advertisement for the film, I thought, oh, this film must be quite recent, you know. And then to find out that it actually was made in the 60s, you know, it was almost surprising.
They don't put the holy words on his ears, and he's just like 2 ears just floating in the air. They just get pulled off.
Yeah.
Pulls them off, which is pretty brutal, isn't it? It's like, I'm just going to take your ears then.
Yeah, you mentioned like not a lot of gore, but that's the more gory scene, if you want gore, I guess. Yeah, this sort of terrifying idea of having your ears ripped off.
How does that one end? I can't remember.
Like you said, that they all sort of end, not ambiguously exactly, but just sort of like suddenly, like as if you think something else was going to happen, wasn't it?
The fourth story starts, there's kind of like a sub-story within a story in that one.
Yeah.
Isn't there? So it starts off someone describing how stories are made, and then he's writing a story down, and then it goes into the story he's written, where a samurai sees a face in a cup of tea.
So he just gets annoyed, doesn't he? He just keeps on throwing the tea away, he smashes the cups, and eventually he decides, all right, I'm going to drink the tea. To stop this face this face that isn't his reflection, annoying him, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have drank the tea.
You've just been freaked out.
I was gone, that's weird. Just leave that. Then it goes back to the writer of the story, who can't be found. Is that right?
Yeah, his housekeeper sort of lets their publisher in, who just knocks at the door and he said, I don't know where he is, but here's his story. So he has a good glance at the story.
There's a note, isn't there? It's like, I can't be bothered to finish it, basically.
Yeah. And then he just sort of says, what indeed does happen if someone drinks a soul? And then there's a scream, a sort of wail, and the housekeeper, is screaming at a big bucket of water. Looks like.
Yeah, I guess it's a drinking well.
Yeah, maybe.
The drinking kind of thing comes back, doesn't it?
And then the publisher does it. The publisher screams as well, and then we see that the writer is trapped in the water, kind of going meh. That kind of odd image of this writer.
And then the actual film ends.
Yeah.
So that's
like you
it.
say, as if to sort of make a point that all the stories kind of end a bit ambiguously, and then.
It's an interesting perspective to look on stories like that, because we're always taught that stories have to have a point. You've got to have a kind of clear morality, or something has to happen can't just tail off, because that's quite annoying to the viewer.
I guess that's where we depart from Edgar Allan Poe, who believed that all stories had to have a point, a denouement.
It's quite refreshing to see a story that doesn't have that. I think it's just about, well, this is interesting, isn't it? And then ends. So, Sam, what did you think of Kwaidan?
Well, I certainly found it interesting enough to talk about and recommend to people, especially people who perhaps into things like Studio Ghibli or any kind of Japanese culture. I think if you're interested in Japanese culture, and I know people are, being exposed to that kind of thing, it's quite enlightening, and Kwaidan is a really good example of that, even if the stories aren't really that fulfilling. However, to research Masaki Kobayashi, I did watch another one of his films, Harakiri, but I thought that Harakiri was so much better than Kwaidan, so much better, that it's probably up there in my top 100 now of films of all time. I really, really liked Harakiri, and I would really, really recommend it to anyone.
So much so we decided not to do it.
Yeah. Well, it was only after I'd picked Kwaidan, that I decided to watch it. So,
so there you go, recommendation to watch another film.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't think it's very fulfilling. A lot of the stories just seem to tail off. I really wanted to see what will happen next in the first story. I think I could have just watched a 2-hour film of just that. But it's quite interesting to see kind of a compendium of all these folktales, and I don't think I would have ever been exposed to that culture otherwise. I don't think I would have gone out and researched these folk tales.
No, but interesting. But you're a fan of Studio Ghibli, aren't you? And
yes.
A lot of that is based on Japanese folklore.
Okay, that's it for this time on Films on That. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
No, I forgot what it was.
What?
Goodbye in Japan. Japan in Japanese. Never mind.